Or two. Hey, everybody, welcome to Toolbox Tuesday. Good gosh, that was Boston, 1979-ish, with Don't Look Back. And that's going to be our theme for today as we reintroduce Clover to you. We're going to say, don't look back and go back to those things that you think you know about Clover, because we're going to bust some myths today. But before we get things kicked off, as always, I want to get you up to speed with everything else that's going to be happening in the month of June. Next week on Tuesday, the 17th, if you got nothing going on, man, oh man, come on back. 1 o'clock Eastern Time, we're going to be hosting Coffee with Closers. Our CEO, Justin Volrath, he's going to give you the State of the Union, and it's going to be an opportunity for you to come off mute and share your wins and have conversations with us in real time. And then, towards the very end of June, on Tuesday, June 24th, well, guess what? It's kind of like a two for Tuesday because on June 24th, we're gonna have a part two with Clover. And during that one, that's going to be the Clover value proposition. And we're going to show you how to position Clover. We're going to show you how to talk about Clover intelligently with your merchants, overcome any objections that they may have with Clover. And the coolest part, we're going to give you guys some brand spanking new tools that you can use out there in the field. But I teased you enough. Let's jump into today's session. As always, we're going to go through content and we're going to be breaking here and there so that we can take some of your questions. As always, if you have questions, you can just throw them right into the chat. We'll make sure that we read those out loud and we get those addressed. And if you so choose, maybe you're the type that doesn't like to type. Maybe you're the type that likes to talk. That's okay too. You can come off mute and you can ask your questions to us. So let's get today's session kicked off here. And I'm getting pop-ups on my screen. And there we go. So today, reintroducing Clover. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't think we've ever done this before during a Toolbox Tuesday, but we have to give you a viewer warning. Yeah, we do. Because today, during today's session, we're going to take all of those Clover myths, misconceptions, and we're going to bust them, just like Mythbusters today. So man, oh man, we got a lot of good content for you. As always, I can't do Toolbox Tuesday by myself. My gosh, you guys would be bored. You guys would kill me. You'd be like, my God, this guy talked for a full hour. I hope he has a special guest. Well, I do. I do. He is Pay Compass's new resident Clover expert. And I'm happy that we got him on the call here today, Mr. John Marshall. John, good afternoon to you, sir.
Thank you, Scott. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Well, if you did, I would actually be in a whole lot of trouble right now. So I'm glad that you did show up. John, you know what? There's a lot of folks on this call that know who you are. However, there are some people that are just meeting you for the very first time. And I think probably the most valuable thing that we can do before we kick off today's session is why don't you introduce yourself? Why don't you talk about your background? Why don't you talk about why so many sales agents enjoy working with you based upon your background and based upon how you've helped them to close Clover deals previously. John, go ahead and introduce yourself, my friend.
Good. Thanks, Scott. Well, again, this might be some myth busting of its in and of itself. For about 30 years, I owned several restaurant locations. So I was a merchant. I was a POS user. I was a payments user. I was a payroll user, and all the above. So I lived and breathed that world for many years. And I sold the business in 2016, knock on wood, just before COVID hit. So no tears there. But I joined this company called Beyond where I met Scott. But first, I was a seller like you all for 4 years. And then Beyond adopted this POS brand called Clover something. Clover something. And I took a fancy to it because of my background. And little by little, I started mastering and documenting and all that. And in my last year at Beyond, Scott and I were in the sales enablement team, and I kind of had the focus of Clover like I do now. So I bring the merchant experience, I bring the seller experience, and I bring that Clover experience. So even though I'm new to Pay Compass, I'm not new to your world, the POS world, or that of your merchants. So I like to think that I have a lot of those thoughts rattling around in my head that we can anticipate what the merchants might want, might need, might be suffering from. So how does that,
Fantastic.
Scott?
That was fantastic. And to all of you, I want to say that I think it's the background in and itself that has really helped John to earn the reputation that he has. Whereas he has been a merchant himself, 30 years as a restaurateur, carried a bag just like all of you. So he went out there and he actually sold card payments to merchants in his local area. And you're going to find that as time goes on, if you schedule a customer-facing demo with John, you're going to find that he does a great job with running the demo, asking the right questions, because he will be relatable to each and every single one of your merchants. So, if nothing else, I thought maybe just a little bit of context as to who the heck this guy John is will help all of you so that it's going to earn your trust and so that you and John can close business together. John, my God, we teased it enough. Do you think it's time to do a little bit of myth busting, my friend? What do you think?
I'm not looking back, Scott.
You're not looking back. Well, thank God we played that song by Boston. So let's jump right in. So, John, probably the first myth that everybody has, Clover. When the first thing they think of is Clover, they just go, Clover is just a POS system. But that's a myth. But we do have some of the POS offerings here on the screen. We've got the Clover Solo, the Duo, Kiosk, and KDS, fairly new to their suite. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, these they keep pushing into these specific solutions. There's actually two sizes of KDS, and the kiosk, although it's hard to see here, that's actually a 24-inch diagonal vertical portrait screen. It is a beautiful solution for customers to self-order and obviously save labor for the merchant. So again, I just mentioned this too. Clover is a POS system. So that is true, but
But
we're about to crack that code, right?
and there
So
we are.
it's so much more. And we really want to drive that home today. Again, just talking about new equipment. The Compact is a brand new countertop solution. It's wired, but it does have cellular 4G as a failover option. I don't know if all of you are aware, Clover changed their Flex, and you can see it out front there, to a second version called the Pocket, which is the same, only lighter because it doesn't have a built-in printer, right? So they keep expanding their offering set to really fit all the different niches that a merchant might need. And Scott, yeah, I know you've taken a fancy to these bottom two. What do you think about those?
Yeah, what I like about this too is that, dependent upon what the merchant's needs truly are, you do have the ability to, as John said, you can go for that Clover Compact. It's a nice wired one that sits on the counter. It's got a swivel to it. They can turn it around, face it to their customers. They got the handheld devices in the Clover Mini. But yeah, jumping down to the bottom, John. I mean, look at this. Merchants can save a little bit of cash on that hardware just by doing that Clover Go app. They can do it either on their smartphone with a portable reader, or if they wanted to, as evidence on the right-hand side, they can set it up on a tablet, whether it's an Android or whether it's an iOS tablet, and once again have that card reader. So, I mean, there's a lot of different flavors for a lot of different merchants, but the biggest thing that we wanted to point out is that look, we know over the years historically, Clover just a POS system. What we want to do, everybody, is we want to change your mindset and say, look, don't look at it as just a POS. Look at it as a payments ecosystem. So whether it's a payment device or whether it's a full-blown POS, Clover is pretty much going to check all of those boxes. John, before I go on, I know I'm going to get super duper excited about the next slide that we're getting ready to show here, but is there anything else that you wanted to cover in this as far as the ecosystem goes?
Well, I do, so I had a person I was helping with in an ice cream shop, and they had an old legacy POS. They knew it was going to be retired, replaced, whatever, but they wanted a new payment device that could take Apple Pay and contactless payments and all that sort of thing. And so the compact, or perhaps a flex, like say you have a drive-through window where you can hand it out for a card payment, got the seller in the door, right? That merchant now is part of the ecosystem. You've got a stake in the ground to anchor your future services. And they were thinking, well, eventually we could then convert to Clover. But after working with it for 2 weeks, they're like, heck with this. We're upgrading. We want to move ahead with the Duo. This is so exciting. So again, I think that's the angle there, is get established, even if it's with a traditional payment processing solution. but they now own that ecosystem. And without any more applications, they can add hardware, they can change to different, SaaS plans. It's just a great way to get started and grow with those opportunities.
Yeah, and that's a huge piece that we're definitely going to be covering today is the fact that within this ecosystem, when you start them out on a payment device, there is the opportunity to bring them up to a different SaaS plan. There is an opportunity to bring them up to different equipment based upon what their needs are. But tell you what, John, we're going to cover that in just a little bit, but let's just kind of jump forward here a little bit because this is the one that I got excited about. The myth, Clover only runs on existing Clover hardware. Well, this is where we're going to do the bust, and we kind of teased a little bit on that previous slide. The Clover Go, it runs on smartphones and it runs on tablets. Now, why am I excited about this? Because this is the key piece that I want all of you to gravitate towards. Regardless of which Clover SaaS plan, notice the way I'm phrasing this, regardless of which Clover SaaS plan you set up your merchant with, they're going to get Clover Go as an added bonus. So regardless of whether you're setting them up with a simple payment device on the counter, regardless if you're setting them up with a full-blown POS system sitting on the counter, the value add is that they're going to have access to Clover Go. It's an all-in-one dashboard, acts just like a POS, and when it acts like kind of like that POS environment, it comes complete with images, as you can see on the screen. So what does Clover Go support? Fixed and variable items. It supports barcodes. Merchants have the ability to do a quick sale. Scott, one more time with feeling. Merchants have the ability to do a quick sale right on their own devices. Has the ability to handle invoices, and it comes with that iPhone tap to pay feature on this. Now, a couple of key things that we want to make sure that we hit on here. So this way everybody's not like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm going to get out there and push this only to find out, well, guess what? You know what? We got to make sure that it falls within specific parameters. So when it comes to setting it up on the iPhone. Clover Go is available on iOS for 15 and up, and it's available on Android at level 8 or up as far as the operating system goes. I mean, for the most part, as far as your merchants go with their operating system, I mean, I know I'm already on like 18.1 on my Apple phone. So I think for the most part, I think a lot of merchants should be above the 15 threshold. But regardless, wanted to make sure that we call it out, just on the off chance there's that one merchant that's still on iOS 12. You never know. Stranger things have been known to happen. But we wanted to make sure that we did call that out. The other piece that we wanted to call out is that with Clover Go, as far as the iPhone tap to pay, only available to the owner of the Clover account. John, I'm actually going to let you expand upon that so I don't muddy the waters on that one. What are we talking about when we say it's only available to the owner of the Clover account?
So when you log into your Clover portal or dashboard or app, right, only the owner, not an admin, not an employee, send a fleet of employees out with the Clover Go app and expect all of those iOS users to support tap to pay, right? Because unless they're logged in as me, which I'm probably not going to give away my credentials, the owner of the Clover account is the only one supported at the moment for tap to pay. But as we saw in the last picture, there is a Bluetooth portable contactless card reader that is available for those other employees. The other thing that's kind of neat is Clover Go also supports a scan to pay. So I can open the phone, the camera of my phone, scan the credit card, and it will actually pick up the card numbers and the expiration date. Now, granted, the user still has to put the CVV in manually, but for a free app, there's a ton of functionality. And I'm going to say one more thing, and you pointed out before, Scott, the invoice option that's listed here. Clover can actually, with the right SaaS plan, send itemized invoices by email, right? Not just a payment request, but hey, these are the items you ordered. So I'm thinking
Right.
those traveling, merchants who are locksmiths or, anybody who's taking payments in the field, this is a really interesting thing. And by the way, the SaaS plan doesn't count Clover Go for a new user or a new device, right? So I could have an unlimited number of sellers out there using this, and my SaaS plan doesn't change. And that's huge. So I don't want to bring up Swipe Simple in this conversation. Oops, I did. Swipe Simple, however, charges for additional users above five. But to their credit, their tap to pay does work with all of the users. So there are, give and take balances we need to be aware of.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things too. I mean, obviously, it's not, do your research, have an understanding of what's going to work best for who. But just as far as like staying on topic with Clover, when it comes to this Clover Go app, I mean, John, from what I understand, any employee that works for the merchant, they can download the app. They can take payment on their devices when they set it up with the Bluetooth reader. The only thing we're saying is that tap to pay feature only
Yes.
available to the owner of the actual account, correct?
Yes. Or you can manually key or you can scan with your camera.
You scan with
Right.
your
But
camera.
as you're illustrating here, this particular pizza restaurant has it running on an app, or excuse me, on a tablet, which is very much like what Swipe Simple does. But again, this anchors the account to you. So if and when they're ready to go up to a station duo or something more substantial, they've already got their inventory and they've already got the transactions, right? It just anchors this account for you going forward.
Go. Last piece that we wanted to make sure that we did call out over on the bottom of the screen that when it comes to Clover Go, PIN-enabled cards are not supported with that tap to pay feature. Also, want to make sure that we set the right expectations when it comes to the Clover Go app. Clover Go app does not support a cash drawer. Okay, not a problem at all. And merchants are not able to access the app marketplace through Clover Go. But once again, I think the key piece that we want to make sure we hit on, regardless of what Clover SaaS plan you set the merchant up with, whether it's a payment device, whether it's a POS, this is the value add. They will be able to access Clover Go on handheld devices, albeit a smartphone or albeit a tablet. Let's keep things moving on because we do have a
And
lot more
Scott,
con.
before you go forward, although it
Yeah.
doesn't support a cash drawer, it does support cash as a tender type
Okay.
and check and all that. But obviously, it's not going to pop a drawer open. So it
Right.
can track those other tender types. It's just not going to be wired to a cash drawer physically.
It's just not going to be wired to a cash drawer, but however, we can capture the type of payments that we have accepted, though.
Absolutely.
There
Absolutely.
we go. Excellent. We got more content, don't we? I bet we got a whole
We
bunch.
got a little bit coming still.
Yeah, we do. All right, so let's jump forward. This, I was so happy that you put this together. And what I want to do is I just want to kind of set the stage with everybody here before we jump into this particular piece. Um, Historically, we've heard it. And what I mean by that is folks have said, you know, I'm not really sure if I want to present Clover as an option to this merge. And this is where we're kind of dispelling some of those myths and just some of those misconceptions. They say, you know what? It seems as if it's difficult to set up. It seems as if it's hard. And the way that, we kind of approached this was, based upon your previous experience with Clover, sure, it may have been difficult at the time because of the circumstances. And what I mean by that is, did you, was your first Clover experience selling them a full-blown POS to a restaurant? Because if you did, we can understand why that would have been a little bit overwhelming with the menu builds and the implementations and everything else. However, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of dial it back and we're going to give you an opportunity to say, look, if you're not that familiar with Clover, keep it simple in the very beginning. Start by selling a payment device, have an understanding of the ecosystem, and then from there, you can start to add to your repertoire. You can start to add more Clover technology to your knowledge base up here. So, John, what are we talking about when we're talking about this first column, basic? I mean, obviously, we're talking about, an introduction to Clover for all of our agents to get out there and start selling a payment device out of the gate so that they can dip their toe in the water, correct?
Yes, and I'm going to even go back one step before, and we
Okay.
talked about this being a payment ecosystem. And we've talked about how hardware and software has grown over time to fit different needs of different merchants. And so what I was really trying to capture here is that let's not think of Clover as a single form factor, if you will. Let's break it into three parts based on your capabilities, expertise, and proficiency, right? So that's kind of the three columns we've set here. And we saw the compact, and we talked about Go, that could be great payment devices, right? No apps. You mentioned that there's no apps supported on the Go, right? It is, in fact, its own app, right? So that's part of that reason. But there's also no items, there's no sales items or inventory involved, right? Again, simplicity. That's what it's all about. So we want to start you thinking about considering Clover, introducing Clover, again, getting that stake in the ground for those merchants that might grow into bigger systems. But start with what you're familiar with now with some of the other payment card brands, right? Equipment. And then as you grow in your capabilities, right? Maybe dip a toe in the water and add a small retail or services type company where there are items. Start to get familiar with the Clover app market and what features and functions can be added there to customize. And then as you become proficient, right, that's where you really get into those full service restaurants that there's a lot of moving parts in a restaurant, and you don't want to start by jumping in the deep end if you don't know how to swim, right? So again, we've tried to give these three tiers, if you will, of how to get started without getting, overwhelmed or underwater.
Yeah, this is probably one of the bigger pieces that we wanted to make sure that we just got out of the way up front because, like I said, historically we've heard it. My gosh, I'm not sure if I want to present it. I've heard that it's cumbersome. I've heard that there's a lot of moving parts to it. And admittedly, if your very first experience is starting over here with a full-blown POS system to a restaurant, absolutely. It's going to be a little bit more work involved. You are going to have to set aside time to make sure that you are being there for your merchants so that everything goes off without a hitch. And we can understand, okay, you probably had a little disenchantment if you started up here. So what we want to do today is we want to just kind of walk through everything logically. So we're going to, as we go through more content, we're going to start from the very basics on that payment level. I'm going to show each and every single one of you how you can graduate, and for those merchants that are going through growth, how you can help them to scale by making the right recommendations on the right technology within that Clover ecosystem. Got a couple more pieces that we're going to hit on here, and I see that we've got some questions that are coming up in the chat. We're going to make sure that we get those addressed for each and every single one of you. So I'm going to keep it moving forward. And then we're going to have a conversation with all of you. So once again, another myth. And this kind of ties into what we talked about on that previous one. Installation, setup, training, man, oh man, agents have to do everything by themselves. They're just kind of thrown out to the wild and they have to figure it out on their own. Well, we're going to bust that because here at Pay Compass, and now that we have John on board, we're going to start giving you the resources. We're going to start making sure that each and every single one of you have all of your arrows in your quiver so that you can get out there and you can sell Clover successfully. Now, we teased that we do have another Clover session coming up in a couple of weeks on the 24th. And during that one, that's the value proposition. And this is where we're going to give you those tools and resources so each and every single one of you can find success with presenting Clover. So coming up soon, everybody, Clover Visual Reference Guide. This will help you with your installations and getting it set up at the merchant's location. Coming soon on the 24th. An Excel proposal tool, meaning you're going to have an Excel spreadsheet in front of you. You choose the equipment, you choose the SaaS plan, and guess what? It's going to generate a beautiful proposal for you that you can hand off to the merchant and say, what do you think? Does it look good? Great. Let's move forward. And the other thing that we wanted to bring up too is that Clover does host weekly webinars based upon their products and such. John, this is something that runs every single week without missing a beat. It's not something that we host, but it's something that Clover hosts for anybody that wants to gain more knowledge, correct?
Yes, so there's actually two sessions every day, each and every day of the week. So depending on if you're looking at restaurant versus retail versus services, there might be certain times, but this repeats every single week. So it's a great opportunity for you to brush up on what these new service plans look like, Again, it's a one directional webinar, so there are
Yeah.
no questions, there's no live comments because they're just doing it out to the nation, right? But this is a great way, or put it in front of your merchant, or take a snippet of it to get access to that in real time when you're ready.
Yeah.
And of
And the
course,
nice thing about,
yeah,
go
no,
ahead,
spoiler alert, I'm going to move to the right here and give away the next thing.
go
So
ahead.
I'm going to publish my calendar on, with you all somehow. Scott can help me get that out to you guys. But where you can sign up for consultations with me to talk about designs, solutions, and all that type of thing. But I also have the ability to do live Clover demos on my emulator, so I can show them what it looks like on a Flex, what it looks like on a Mini or a Station, and really give them that personalized experience. So again, what I ask, because there's so many of you, right? Don't make that your first foray into Clover, right? Go on to the live webinars and learn about these solutions first, and then use me as the final closing tool to push that merchant over the edge to say yes.
Yeah.
And then, of
So
course, hats off to our solutioning, the rest of our solutioning team and our support team, who are also there for you, both on the design phase, but also, post implementation and that type of thing.
excellent. All right. And I think that was a great recommendation that John made as far as if you want to start gaining knowledge, you want to start learning about, everything Clover, those webinars that are hosted by Clover, that's a great way to start building your knowledge base, having an understanding of the different SaaS plans and the different verticals that they work with when it gets to that point in time. And I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. When you have genuine opportunities where you're thinking, man, you know what? I think this is a good fit for Clover. That's where you can schedule that consultation with John. He'll walk you through, make recommendations, and if need be, he can do that customer facing demo on your behalf for your merchant. And as always, my hope is that the two of you wind up closing new business together. So this is the biggest myth that I think that we really wanted to address today because we've kind of heard some of the grumblings and we get it. The information was put out there and it's Clover raised their monthly SaaS rates and they didn't provide any equal value. You know what? When I first heard that, I did the same thing. I went, whoa, what's wrong with you, Clover, just raising your rates? My gosh, that seems expensive. But I'll be the first one to say shame on me. Because after spending a couple of weeks with John putting together today's session, I learned that they didn't just raise their prices arbitrarily, they actually brought a whole lot of value to all of their SaaS programs. And today, we're going to show you what they have added to each and every single SaaS. So this way, once again, don't look back, as we said at the beginning of the call, start looking forward and going, you know what? I can see the value add. Now I can understand why they raised those monthly SaaS rates because, man, oh man, they are providing a whole bunch of value here. So let's jump in
So Scott,
and
before you
go
do
ahead, John.
that,
Yeah,
I
go
want to
ahead.
mention, and for those of you who have existing Clover merchants who are seeing this and they're calling you, Richard texted me earlier saying he had just such a client. I think it's really important to get ahead of this and make sure that these merchants, the existing merchants, know what is now available to them and leverage that.
Yeah.
Right? They may see the increase, but they may not know what is added and what's new and how it can benefit their business. Right? So I think that is a really powerful way to get in front of this and say, hey, by the way, yes, your SaaS may have gone up. We'll go into specifics in a minute, but there's this long list of tools that are now available to you in that same plan that you should be leaning into and making the most of.
And John, I'm actually going to say shame on me. No matter how many times you and I practiced this before we jumped into our session, we were supposed to jump into questions at this point in time. Ladies and gentlemen, we will do the complete overview of the SaaS, but you know what? We're going to break and we're going to take a look at your questions. John, there's a whole bunch popping in the chat, up in the chat. Correct me if I am wrong here, my man.
There are, I don't want to run over
Okay.
today, but do you want to handpick some you think we can
Yeah, let me just take a look over here. And by the way, for those of you that don't know too, we actually have a producer working behind the scenes. Her name is Hind. She works in the marketing department. And sometimes if I miss your questions, Hind is going to jump in and she's going to help me out. Hind, producer Hind, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing absolutely fantastic. Keep me on track. If you notice
Yes,
that I've skipped
sir.
a couple questions or whatever, you just hold me accountable. We're recording this, and we get to broadcast
Yes.
it to the whole world, and they go, "Yeah, he kind of messed up." All right, so
No, you
let's
guys
take
are
a look at
killing
the.
it.
We're trying our very best. Steve Firsch had thrown out a question regarding a kitchen printer. Um, Steve, what in particular, as far as kitchen printer goes, kitchen printer available, or if you don't mind coming off mute, my friend? Or he may not be able to come off mute.
uh,
But John, let's just go ahead.
for the Go with the
Kitchen
tablet,
printer for the Go. Okay.
but can you do a printer on that Go with the tablet?
John?
So, yes and no. Clover will tell you no, it doesn't support remote printers. But the workaround is there's one KDS offering in the app marketplace that will pick up whatever is ordered. So if they're willing to use a KDS and not a printer, then there is a workaround that will pick up orders placed on the Clover Go. And we could talk about that offline, Steve. I see another one, dual pricing on Clover Go. So again, it's a yes and no, right? So technically, to be compliant with cash discounting, you're supposed to raise all your prices. And in my opinion, the most of the time I'm going to be using the Clover Go is to take card payments, which will be at the higher price. So my answer is it is sort of doing dual pricing because you are charging the higher price for card payments. The cash and check workaround is you could create a manual discount in Clover Go to give back a percentage for cash or check payments. You'd have to apply that manually, however. And FYI, Clover discounts can only be whole percentages. They cannot be fractional percentages. So if you can live with that, you can mimic cash discounting on Go.
All right, John, this is a great question, and I'm sure a lot of folks have had this question in the back of their minds. So, John, here's the question. What if I have an existing Pay Compass customer that's currently on Clover right now? Are they considered to be a part of the ecosystem where they can have Go and the options that we're discussing today? Is that possible?
Every single Clover account owner has access to Go. And so for the employees to have access, the owner would have to create the staff as an employee and give them both the email address and a passcode. And they could then go to the app marketplaces for their device, download the Go app, and they just log in with their email and their password. And their privileges on the app would be limited to the role they're assigned in the Clover system, just like in person, right? If I'm an employee, I have limited permissions. If I'm a manager, I have more permissions. If I'm an admin, I have even more. So again, all of that is inherited on the Go app. But Scott, think about all the merchants who do off-premise festivals and events and community days and all these things where,
Farmers markets and fundraisers. Keep going.
where right, I want to take my POS on my phone to those events. I want to take it on a tablet. I want to take payments at those events. I want to still see my sales and reporting and depletions, right? And we all know our phones are cellular already. So you almost don't need a Clover Flex device and activate a second cellular account because my phone does that part already. All I need is maybe a Bluetooth reader if I want to do Apple Pay or contactless. So again,
And
so much there as part of the ecosystem.
yeah, and that is such a huge talking point also because there are times where we make the assumption, I've got this one merchant that, does jams and jellies and they do barbecue sauce and hot sauces, but they also go to farmers markets. Gosh, does this mean that I have to set them up with a Clover POS system in the store? And does this mean that I have to set them up with a Flex? based upon what their needs are, we could keep it really simple. They could have that POS system set up right in the store or whatever the case may be. And to your point, John, have that app set up on their phone. So this way, rather than incur another cost for equipment, rather than incur another cost for another device, we're saying, look, depending on what the needs are, maybe all they need to do is just download the app, depending on how often they're going to use it and how is it that they want to accept payments and manage their inventory. I did see one more question that popped up into the chat, and then we're going to jump into some of these SaaS plans over here very quickly. And how would a quick service merchant add Uber Eats with a 30% upcharge? That's from Steve Frisch.
Well, Steve, I'm going to actually hold that either to later this call or 2 weeks from now because it can do that now. So there's the nugget, right? We can, Clover can, but that's more of the value proposition. So I want to try to get through the SaaS plans if we can today, or we can have this conversation offline. But offsetting those high commissions by differing prices is definitely a top item that Clover can do.
And John, Carol Steen, her wheels are turning right now, and man, oh man, she's going to be excited in a little bit as we continue with content, because she just threw out a question that says, when an item is sold on the iPhone, will it remove inventory from the store? John, what does that mean? Can it do that?
It does. It is part of the
No
ecosystem.
system. It
Now,
is. It's
granted,
huge.
inventory is a higher level SaaS plan than just payments, right? So,
Hmm.
assuming they have the right plan, then yes, it will deplete from their in-store inventory if they're selling it on their phone.
Yeah, and that is a key piece that I want everybody to gravitate towards when it comes to some of these specific features that we're talking about, especially this pulling the inventory in real time. Can it do it? It can, but did you set them up on the right SaaS plan? John, let's jump in because we got a lot of content to cover here within the next 20 minutes or so, my man. Are you ready?
Yep. So this busted myth that you're showing right here, let's go and show them. Let's pull that curtain back, right?
Let's pull that curtain back. All
All
right,
right. Again,
John,
you
go
remember we
ahead.
talked about the 3 tiers, right? The basic, the proficient, and whatever the middle one was, right? So if you want to dip a toe into the Clover pool and start with that, there's a lot of devices that can take payments. But what I really want to point out is look at how much Clover charges for their payment SaaS plan. Scott,
For
did you
one
mistype
device.
that?
To be clear, for one device. The first device.
For the first device, right? So is that a typo? That 0.00?
Actually, it's not. That's how much it is
It's
for
not.
one device. Payments
For
only, one device sitting on the counter, 0 per month. John, take it away.
right now, we just spent a lot of time getting excited about the Clover Go app. Scott, is that considered a device from a SaaS billing model perspective?
I know, John, it's not considered a device because it's considered an added bonus.
So I want to write that clear, right? As many Go apps you have out in the field, that is not considered an extra device, right? So Clover Payments, think of the redundancy, virtual terminal, invoicing, pay links, Clover Go, in-cloud reporting for a whopping 0.00 for that first terminal. So get that foot in the door with those merchants. And if they're going to grow, if they're on the fence about replacing their old POS, you've got that. They've got a mid setup. They've got a count that is could be momentarily switched to a different payment plan. That's what's so exciting. And that's that fourth bullet you see there, Scott. Flexible upgrade path to higher level SaaS and hardware.
Yeah.
That's huge.
So, and just for the sake of clarity, okay, all of you, if you go into a merchant and all they need is one device sitting on the counter, whether it's the compact on the right-hand side or whether it's those handheld devices on the other side, if that's all they need is one payment device from Clover, the monthly SaaS is 0. They get Clover Go as an added bonus. Now, if your merchant needs two devices, 0 for the first device. Additional devices will be $11.95 per month. Let's give a breakdown of just kind of like cost comparison here, because I think this is a key piece to think about. Okay. Clover comparison. So what we did is we just kind of took a look at some of the top devices that are being sold right now that we know about. You know, we hear people are out there selling that Valor VP100, or they're selling a Deja Vu P1. All right, let's take a look at the Clover Compact. Take a look at the price. That Compact, $375. Okay, costs a little bit more than the Valor and the Deja Vu. Fair. Everybody wants to save money. But let's start thinking long term. Let's thinking about the total cost of ownership. All right. This is the part we want to get excited about. So take a look at this. Hypothetical. The hypothetical is I have a merchant. I set him up with one Clover device. I set him up with maybe the Clover Compact. It cost that merchant $375. One device, they get Clover Go added for free. The monthly SaaS is 0. Over the course of 48 months, 0. Total cost of ownership, setting up a merchant with one Clover device, $375. That's how much it costs for the Compact. So if you take a look, if you do set up a Valor or if you set up a Deja Vu, monthly SaaS for the Valor, $7. Deja Vu, $9. Over the course of 48 months, Valor comes up to 336. For the Deja Vu, comes up to 432. So total cost of ownership, after a while, you can see, well, it may have cost a little bit more upfront to set them up with that one Clover device. Over time, save a little bit of money as far as that SaaS fee goes. Just things to think about when you're presenting options. Now, granted, there may be businesses that specifically need that Valor device, or they specifically need the Deja Vu device. Not one size fits all, but we want to make sure that each and every single one of you can have intelligent conversations with the merchant by making sure that you are setting them up with the right technology, especially if they're the type of merchant that looks at long-term total cost of ownership as far as their technology is concerned.
Well, and again, Sky, I saw that and I was like, wow, Clover looks $100 more expensive than the other terminal.
Yeah.
Well, it looks that way up front. The other thing I want to just mention, every Clover device comes with a SIM card built in. So even though that looks slightly more expensive, it ends up being less expensive over the life of the merchant. But if their internet goes down, that Compact has a SIM card in it. They can flip over to cellular and keep taking payments. That doesn't work with the other two Wi-Fi devices.
Yep. Hopefully everybody's like, it's good stuff. We're really, I really hope this is having an impact. But the nice thing about this too, if we're going a little bit too fast, we're trying not to. We're trying to make sure we cover everything. But keep in mind, everybody, this call is being recorded today. Our lovely marketing team, they're going to get this sent out either towards the end of the day today or probably first thing tomorrow. Usually within 24 hours of a Toolbox Tuesday, our marketing team will make sure they get the recording out there. Everybody, please don't let your heads explode. We just want to make sure we're covering a lot of content so that you feel equipped. But I'm promising you, a lot of good stuff coming up here. John, let's keep talking about these SaaS plans. So obviously there's been a little bit of a price change on Clover Essentials, now currently $29.95 per month. Previously it was $14.95. But John, what has Clover added to make people go, all right, you know what? You didn't raise your price arbitrarily. You actually gave me some brand new stuff. John, what's new? What's new with Essentials?
So let me tell you what's not new, but is different, right? So payments doesn't have sales items, right? It just takes a total payment. So Essentials adds inventory, it adds sales items, and those sales items can have a tax or non-tax setting associated with them, right? You can track quantity on hand and deplete those things that we talked about before. But what is new is you can now sell an essentials plan on a station solo or station duo. So if I wanted that big screen and I wanted the customer facing contactless second screen, I always had to have an upper level plan to sell that in the past. Now those bigger pieces of hardware can be associated with a simpler essentials plan. So in my opinion, actually, in that case, Clover lowered the monthly price from where they had anchored them for these station terminals. So there's sort of a price reduction in a sense. But the other thing that's kind of interesting, and this has not been turned on yet, but subcategories are coming this month. So think about you have men's apparel under which you could have shoes, tops, shorts, pants, etc. Subcategories are coming. I think that's really interesting. Age verification will be rolling out. So if there's a vape store or a liquor store or those types of things, right? I can assign age restrictions, different ages to different products. So I think that's really cool that they're moving into.
John, can you explain more in the subcategories what that is?
Well, think about. I'm sorry for going up to the top of the line, but let's think about a restaurant. I could have a category that says bar, and the subcategories could be beer, wine, spirits, right? So it's a way to sort of have a two-tiered category type solution. Again, so the category lists don't become enormous, right? I can have larger super categories with subcategories. So we'll dive into that a little bit more in 2 weeks. But this, I think, is also really interesting. Branded website.
That's huge.
So remember, they still don't have e-commerce. But Scott, if you flip to the next slide, let me give them a little visual of what a branded website looks like. Whoop.
It's supposed to be that's on me.
All right, we're gonna come back around to that. But
We'll come back around. That's on me.
what it is the same images, categories, and prices that they would have if they had an e-commerce website. They just can't sell online. So if they want to show their products and the prices and what they have and get customers excited about it, that branded website, which we will show you a picture of shortly, is
Hopefully.
included. And so I'm thinking about like florists and those types of things where they have these beautiful bouquets that they want to show off to get you excited about coming in. That's included with essentials as well.
Yeah, and just to kind of go back to what we were alluding to earlier, as far as depending on the SaaS plan that you set them up with, growing with the business, scaling with the business, essentials plan. Okay, so you're dealing with a merchant that does a majority of their stuff on Facebook or Instagram, which is fine. Everybody's got to start somewhere. So they have pictures of their goods on Facebook. They have pictures of their goods on Instagram. But the downside of that, as a consumer, well, now I have to go through previous posts to pull everything together so I can see all their inventory. Selling them essentials, you can say, look, we understand that you want to, get the pictures out there of all of your goods and services and everything else. But admittedly, how is that working for the consumer that, visits your business? Or how's it working for a potential customer that may not have been in here before? Wouldn't it be great if rather than doing multiple picture posts on social media, what if you had a branded website branded to your specific company, Mr. and Mrs. Merchant, where you can just display all of your goods in one fell swoop and it's included with your SaaS plan? I think that's where the benefit comes in on the essentials. Tell you what, John, I'm keeping an eye on the time here. I know we got some more
Yep.
stuff we want to cover. Let's talk about retail growth. Okay, $84.95 per month. Previously, this was called the register plan, and it was coming in at $49.95. So for $84.95, some people might go, wow, that seems like it's gone up considerably, but there's the value added to it. John, what is the value add when we set up a business with a retail growth plan?
All right, so here's the secret sauce, Scott. Is before, if you had register and you wanted to sell online, you wanted an e-commerce site, you had to go to that bad word called Shopify,
Yeah.
or maybe preferably big commerce. But all of a sudden now you have to master two solutions, not one. And linking those together was complicated and complex. So what Clover has done is provided the retailer an e-commerce platform that shows all their items. They can order all those items. As Carol mentioned earlier, they will deplete those in-store items. All the linkage and pricing and all of that just happens. And the coolest part is this does true support for variants. And So what I want to do is look down at the bottom there on the benefits, right? Big Commerce and the app called SKU IQ, which is what linked Clover to Big Commerce, that would normally be purchased for $85 by itself on top of the old register plan. So for $1 a day, Clover has provided a true integrated e-commerce solution that is turnkey. And I think that is like phenomenal value for the dollars invested, $1 extra a day. And Scott, if you go to the next slide, and I want to show a visual of what true variants look like. And I don't know if you can see my little arrows there, but the women's tee, right, might come in 4 sizes and 5 colors. But you don't want lots and lots of images just to show the items and colors. So they then have the drop downs, just like you would expect on BigCommerce or Shopify, to pick your color and your size. And of course, the price can vary depending on those variants. But that to me is a real advantage. Again, as I'm showing on the right, you have the picture forward view. You can also have more of an information forward view. They're categorized, and at the bottom, there's site-wide search. So in this case, we pulled up water bottle, and it would find every match throughout the e-commerce site. So again, I think they did a really nice job linking and building out this for the retail growth customer. And let's keep pushing ahead, Scott. And by the way, in 2 weeks, we're going to go back to the value propositions of these again.
Yep.
So now notice the similar price, $84.95. This is services growth. The last one we just looked at was retail growth.
Retail.
So think about this for all the salons, the barbers, all those types of things who want an appointment calendar book. They want to post that online so customers can go and set up their own appointments, just like you'd schedule a demo for me, right, on my calendar. These merchants can now post what their services are and which of their staff are assigned to those services. So men's haircuts might have certain staff and women's haircut might have different staff. So all of that is solved, again, for $1 a day more than the register plan that didn't have that feature set.
Yeah.
On top of this, they can also have products for sale. I'm not going to call it e-commerce because it doesn't have variants, but if they have shampoos and soaps and other things that go with their services, they can have those posted and able for online purchase as well. So this is huge for a space that didn't really have this solution before. And I'm going to give you a value comparison, right? Cajilio is my favorite for the salon space. Their app alone is $100 on top of what was the register plan. So what used to cost merchants $150 now can be had for $85 with this built-in plan.
Yeah. And John, when you and I were putting this together, I would say that this is the one that excited me the most because historically, when presenting Clover as a solution, it always felt as if we had to kind of piecemeal it together. Okay, well, we got the device and we figured out the SaaS plan, and now we have to go into the Clover marketplace to try to figure out an app that's gonna, manage appointments and allow people to do scheduling and everything else. So what Clover did is they just leveled the playing field and said, look, if you are a service-based business, and if you sign up for this particular plan, you can have your own calendar online. Your customer base can go in and they can set up an appointment and they can reschedule it if they need to. And what we're doing is we're eliminating the need to go poke around that Clover app marketplace. Oh gosh, maybe I can find a good scheduling app. Well, you don't have to do that if you get set up on this SaaS plan. And even John, you were the one that set this up. As far as think about those salons. I want to book an appointment. I want to find out who is available. I can pick my date. I can pick my time. I can choose the type of haircut that I want. I can get this booked. And John alluded to this also from a merchant's perspective, the owner of the salon, they got a full calendar view. Well, so look at this. Now they can see when their employees are going to be busy and what they're doing for services and everything else, just full visibility. So the biggest talking point that we wanted to make sure that we hit on today is, everything that you thought you knew about Clover, take it and just throw it out the window. Because these services plans, they've really upped their game on it. If nothing else, the biggest thing that I'm identifying is that they're eliminating the need for a lot of business owners to have to go poking around in that Clover app marketplace to set up their online ordering, to set up the ability to take reservations online. Clover's saying, look, just sign up for the right SaaS plan, and we're going to give you a whole bunch of value on that. John, let's start to bring it all home, my man, because we haven't even talked about restaurant as of yet. So for the most part, this new SaaS plan, restaurant growth, previously counter service was a name for it, came in at $59.95. Previously table service came in at $89.95. Now, for the most part, price is still $89.95. But John, what's changed on this restaurant plan?
So this might be the only point of contention, right? Is how existing counter service merchants like take this. So and we can take this offline next week. Can they go back down to essentials? Maybe they lose some of that key restaurant functionality. What they gain though is all of the features that table service had offered previously. So
Previously.
this might be the most quirky of those three discussions to be had, right? But what I really wanted to call out, and we started talking about this before, is um, what they are adding into the space, and again, it's rolling out this month, is day parts. So we talked about subcategories briefly, but they're rolling out day parts. So think about breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And Clover could never do that well because they would see, or everybody online and in store would see every category all day long. So what day parts will allow the Clover merchant to do is hide the breakfast menu after 11 a.m. If they want to charge different prices on their lunch menu from their dinner menu, they can do that. If they have a special brunch menu on the weekends, they can now do that. And the other thing I really want to key on here, which is really interesting to me, is because those are different menus, and someone talked about raising commissions for DoorDash and Uber Eats, right? This is how that is going to be accomplished, is each of these different menus can have the same item at a different price. So the same items can be priced higher at dinner in store. They could also be priced even higher for DoorDash deliveries to offset those commissions. So I think this is a very powerful value proposition that will impact the counter service restaurant because they're probably more likely to have a lot more of those third-party delivery like solutions in place. So to me, this is very, very exciting that's coming down the way. And I also want to say with these day parts, the in-store devices will automatically switch to the new menus at the appropriate price. So if the breakfast menu goes away at 11, it will swap for the lunch menu at 11:01. And that's something that we knew and enjoyed in Micros and Aloha and all that. So this is really a key differentiator, I think, in the restaurant space.
Yeah, and you made a great point too. And it's not going to be one size fits all. Like if I walk in as an agent into a restaurant, I go, well, I automatically have to set them up on restaurant growth. Well, such is not the case. Depending upon what their needs are, you could start them off as low as the essentials plan, as you had mentioned previously. But for the most part, everybody, what we wanted to do is just get you excited about this and just get you thinking about opportunities that you currently have. Because you are going to start getting a lot of resources fairly quickly. As mentioned previously, we're going to be releasing a lot more resources to you by the time that we do our second Clover session in a couple of weeks. The proposal tool, the ability to Gosh, John, I get so excited about everything. I forgot
Visual reference
visual
guide,
reference guide. Thank you, my friend.
all these other, and quick back to Craig's question.
Yep.
The appointments are not suitable for physical spaces. They are really for services, right? All right. By the way, I love this, Scott.
Oh, thank you.
Right? Do you think we had a theme today?
We did. We were hoping to bust some myths today. But what were you saying as far as the question that you had in the chat, my
So
friend?
again, the Clover appointment and online scheduling is really about people and services. It's not about physical spaces. So it's not going to be for that golfing range or the canoe rental or that type of thing. For that, I would still send you towards Cagilio as an app because they do have physical space reservations and that type of thing. So, but we can talk about that more next in 2 weeks.
And we did bust as many myths as we can today, and we are going to have another session coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, do
Want to
you
make sure
have
that
that slide for the branded website real fast before we? Oh, okay, go ahead.
no, I was
Your
going to
reminder.
say reminder, save the date coming up in a couple of weeks on the 24th. That's when we're going to do the Clover value proposition sneak peek. This is what the proposal tool is going to look like. So if you take a look on the left-hand side, you generate a proposal for a merchant. It's going to have the equipment. It's going to even include the options as far as 6-month financing, doing a rental, 2-year rent to own. A lot of thought was put into this, and you can thank Mr. John Marshall for putting together this proposal tool. We're excited about it because we know that it's going to help all of you to be even more successful in the field. We did come up at the top of the hour, but you know what? We still have questions in the chat. I want to be respectful of everybody that joined us here today. Let's make sure we get those questions addressed. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and why don't we dive into some of these questions? And if I can figure out how to navigate Zoom, we'll be doing pretty dang good. Boom, stop sharing. And there we go. Let me close this out. And let's jump into your questions, my friends. Boom. All right. Can Clover do bin-based surcharging as of yet? Let's do these rapid fire, John, and we'll kind of let everybody
I'm
get
gonna
into the
I'm
day.
gonna save that for the 24th because I think the
Okay.
answer is gonna be yes.
Okay, so something you're going to look into then, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Let's make sure we get that one documented. Clover dashboard with that Clover compact. Is there still this is a great question. This comes up all the time. Is there still that Trans-Armor fee, even if it's under the payments plan that's for free? That's a great question. Thank you for throwing that one out, Justin.
Um, that would be that that would be on top of that,
Okay.
right? Because that's the encryption for any and all of it. So, but I need to double check on that.
All right. Once again, this is something that we are going to double check on.
I think that's an account level setting, not a device level setting.
Yep. Multi-platform pizza and beer, 2 separate menus. John Wells throwing out a question. Online ordering available in retail growth. If not, where is it? Online
Yeah,
ordering
so
is available.
that's the e-commerce that we talked about with variant support. So absolutely in
Okay.
retail growth.
Yep. Will it work for reservations for campgrounds? What are your thoughts on that one, John?
I'd send you to Cagilio for physical spaces.
Okay, there we go. Oh, weight scale integration only available in restaurants growth. I'm pretty sure that when we had that slide up, the weight scale integration was with for
So
the retail, was it not, John?
so spoiler alert, that proposal tool has a SaaS compatibility page to it. So you can say, I need a weight scale, and it'll tell you which SaaS plans support it. Having said that, all 3 growth plans support the weight scale integrated.
Yeah. And I'll say one of my favorite things about Clover 2 is everything is within that ecosystem. So when it comes to things like the scale, it's actually included on our hardware pricing list. So it's not like you have to go out and source a scale and everything else. Clover already put the thought into it, and you got the equipment to pair up with it, which is an added bonus. I do not see any other questions. Producer Hind, did I miss any questions here, my friend?
No, you did a great job.
Oh,
I didn't want to interrupt, but you went back to the top where, so we're good.
no, it looks like I may have done this before. God, whew, I did it. Ladies and gentlemen, we covered a lot of content very quickly. Hopefully, we didn't overwhelm you. Hopefully, we provided value to you. We appreciate the fact that you block out your time to join us on Toolbox Tuesdays every 2 Tuesdays. we are going to have resources available to you. This recording will be available to you. The deck that we put together, I'm willing to bet that we can convert it into a PDF if anybody just needed some sort of a reference guide to get them through the day to day. But you know what? We could not have done this if it were not for one man, Justin Volrath. No, I'm kidding. John Marshall. Come on, everybody. Give John some love. John really worked very, very hard to put this together. Wait until you see the resources this man has put together with your proposal tool, your visual reference guide. John, Pay Compass would be lost without you, my man. And I'm so excited that you joined the team within the past month. We are so grateful to have you.
So we're going to have some fun with this Clover brand. We're going to solve a lot of problems. And to your point, we have a placemat that will summarize all of Clover SaaS plans and hardwares and accessories on a front to back. For those of you who knew me in my past life, I love to have those laminated at Staples or something like that and take it in to every merchant and show off everything that's available. So we've got a lot coming your way, a lot of information, but a lot of resources as well.
Look at that, everybody. When you woke up this morning, your thought wasn't, boy, I hope on Toolbox Tuesday I got a placemat too. Well, look at how lucky you are. You get a placemat too. This guy has put a lot of thought into everything Clover. Friends, I'm going to tell you right now, by the time we finish up the second session, there was very few and far in between. You're going to say, I don't have enough resources.
You're going to
You're
want
about
to
to,
order one yourself. That's
yeah,
how much
you're going
I'm excited.
to, you're going to get a whole bunch of resources very quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I thank you for joining Toolbox Tuesday. I love seeing you guys on these calls. I love hosting these calls. Hopefully they're informative. Hopefully they're helping you in your selling journey. As always, if you need any help, just reach out to us, sales@paycompass.com. More than happy to take care of each and every one of you. Until we meet again, don't forget next week, Coffee with Closers coming up at 1 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. And then after that, John and I are going to come back again, do another Toolbox Tuesday on the 24th. Until we meet again, rock on, stay heavy metal, and make it a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, John,
Thank
Ken,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.